Welcome to another video demonstration. Today I'm going to butcher a duck, and then we'll cook the duck breasts and we'll cook the duck legs confits, so you get to see that whole process. Here's the duck. My advice on opening the package would be slice along the back of the package so you don't slice along the breast. Along with the duck inside the package came some giblets here. So we've got the heart. I'm going to throw that in with the duck leg confit, and there's the neck. We could throw that in with the neck as well, or sorry, with the confit as well, and then when it's done, pull the meat off, and then it could go into whatever, a taco or something. It also came with some liver, and this is pretty small little liver. It's not really much food to deal with here at home, so it's likely going to end up in the dog food dish for tonight. So the duck itself, it's very similar to a chicken. All birds are quite similar. We want to take off the breast nice and square, and we want to see that skin protected. So my advice is, before we start taking the wings and stuff off, is basically visualize the breast. And I'm going to make a cut here. We're going to cut through the skin anyway, and I just want to make sure that we're leaving enough skin on the breast there. So that's what we're going to do on this side. I'm going to do on this side. Once you do a few ducks, you probably don't have to do that step, but it's not a bad idea in the beginning. I'm going to take the wings right off. We're not going to do like a supreme with duck. They usually just come right off. So I've got the joint pop there, but I'm not going to cut straight down, because if I cut straight down, I'm cutting into that breast meat there. So I'm just going to get underneath the bone and then turn my knife up and cut up like that. Now this guy here, what we're going to do is split the wing tip. The wing tip, there's really no food on there, so that's going to go into stock. And then the wing itself, it's tougher than a chicken wing, so I'm going to confit it and then pull the meat off and use that little bit of meat that way. So the other wing, basically I just cut from the back until I can see where the joint is. Every ball and socket has got some tendon holding it together. Once you find that tendon, cut it, and it opens up quite easily. And then curve your knife up. We'll do the legs. So I made that first cut, so I've got my skin protected. We're going to cut around, and just like a chicken, we want to get that oyster meat out. So there's around the oyster meat. And then, oops, I bumped the phone. Then what we want to do is roll the leg backwards towards the tail of the animal, and that just pops that little joint right there. A little bit of tendon holding it together. Do that. And then I'm going to pull on this and keep the knife right pushed down onto the carcass, and just little wiggles, and the leg pops right off like that. We'll come back to that and clean it up in a bit. So once again, oyster meat, and then roll the whole thing till we see the joint, and then pull little cuts, and that takes it right off of there. Breast meat, just like chicken, cut down the keel bone. The bone here is a little bit different than a chicken. It's more flat. So it sort of goes in a little bit and then makes very close to a 90-degree angle, and then it's quite flat compared to a chicken. You just have to make sure your knife follows the same path that the carcass takes. When in doubt, when you're doing meat cutting, make small cuts and use your fingers lots. What I mean by that is I'm not going to do much damage if I just make tiny little cuts like this. Use my fingers, sort of pull. Just going to run that knife along the top of the wishbone, which is right there. And one breast is out. Do the second one the same way, along the keel bone. Make sure that your knife, you go down, you turn your knife at a almost 90-degree angle. You cut this way, but then you have to remember to curve down because the carcass is curved. Same as chicken. Here's the breasts that I've pulled off. Still lots of good fat coverage. We're just going to clean these up a bit. So first things first, I'll square off this fat. I'm saving the fat because that's what we're going to confit the legs in. So there's a little bit of silver skin here. We'll trim that up. A little bit of silver skin there. It doesn't have to be 100% cleaned off because it's not quite as tough as you'd think. And there's that tendon inside the tenderloin. I could take the tenderloin off, but then what am I going to do with those two little skinny pieces of meat? So I'm going to leave them on the breast and it'll be part of that portion. So I'm just going to take that piece of connective tissue off right there. And maybe square off this fat so it's a little nicer. So now we've got a nice, good, fat-covered duck breast. And that's what we'll do the other side. Okay, there we have 2 duck breasts ready for cooking. Here's my 2 duck legs. So we're going to cook these confit, and a lot of that fat's going to render away, but this is too much. So I'm going to just trim some of that away. And the fat on the inside here doesn't render as well as the fat on the outside. So I'm going to take that big wad of fat off right there. Save the fat, we're going to use it. Trim that up a bit. So that looks a lot much more reasonable. And then some people will cut this here, but I think it's just easiest just to make a cut right around the knuckle. Just cut through the skin. Just like that, and that's it. And that's all I do. This skin's going to contract this way, this skin's going to contract up, and you'll have clean bone. And it's a bit of a rustic presentation, but I kind of like it. Duck confit is kind of a rustic dish anyway. There's my 2 legs, ready for marinating. Now the carcass we're not done with because there is this very, very valuable duck fat on it. And there's tons of fat in duck skin. So I'm going to take all this good stuff off. The skin, I'm going to cut into thin strips so it renders nicely. I'm going to cook that in a pot. I'll show you that shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare all this. What we're going to do with all this fat is I'm just going to put it in a little pot. I've got just a couple tablespoons of water in there. We're going to put that fat in there. I'm going to put it over a low flame. All right, here's all my parts. I've got the carcass. That's going to go for stock. Wing tips, I'm going to put that in with stock. Just tuck those in there for now. The wings, I'm going to confit and then pull the meat off. I'm going to add the neck to do that, so we'll get a little bit of meat off of that. Probably enough there for a couple bowls of soup or something like that. There's a piece of fat. We've got the 2 breasts, and then we've got 2 legs, and then we've got heart and liver. I'm going to throw the heart in with the wing tips over there, so I'll confit all those together. Come on, sit. Good. Take it nice. Getting closer. Here's the duck fat. It's gone from simmering to sizzling.